Last week, behind the locked doors of a private sitting room at Windsor Castle, Prince William did something that no royal has ever done in living memory. He stood up from the table, looked Camilla's son Tom Parker Bowles dead in the eye, and said 4 words that stopped every conversation in the palace. "You need to leave. Now." Staff froze with trays in their hands. Camilla's face drained of colour. King Charles sat completely still, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment for months. Tom didn't argue. He just stood, nodded once, and walked out. That was it. No shouting. No drama for the cameras. Just a clean, brutal line drawn in front of the entire inner family. What happened next has left courtiers whispering that the monarchy just shifted under everyone's feet. Because this wasn't a simple family argument. This was the public face of a secret decision Charles made weeks earlier that even William didn't fully understand until that night. A decision that could push Camilla's children permanently to the edges of royal life. And the reason William finally snapped after years of holding it in? It goes back to something Tom said about Diana that no one was supposed to hear. Stay with me. The story behind this explosion is darker, more personal, and far more calculated than anyone outside those walls realizes. Here's where everything changed. It started 3 weeks earlier at a private dinner Charles hosted to discuss the family's public calendar for the coming year. Tom was there because Camilla had quietly asked for him to be included. She wanted her son to feel part of the inner circle now that she was queen. William arrived late. He had just come from a meeting about his mother's memorial garden and he was already on edge. Halfway through the meal Tom made a comment that sounded casual at first. He said the public needed to move on from the old stories and stop treating Diana like she was still the only woman who ever mattered to the family. William put his glass down so slowly that everyone heard the crystal touch the table. He didn't raise his voice. He just asked Tom to repeat what he had just said. Tom laughed it off. He said he only meant that the monarchy had to look forward. William stared at him for a full 10 seconds. Then he stood up and told him to leave. Just like that. But what happened next surprised everyone. Charles didn't defend his stepson. He didn't even look at Camilla. He simply nodded at a footman and the door was opened. Tom walked out into the corridor without another word. Camilla followed him a minute later. The rest of the family sat in silence. Kate reached under the table and squeezed William's hand. That was the only movement in the room. Later that night 2 senior aides were called to Charles' study. They were told to prepare a new set of protocols. From that moment Camilla's children would no longer attend official family planning meetings. Their names would be removed from certain guest lists. It was presented as a simplification of the household. Everyone in the room knew it was something else. That's not even the biggest surprise. The real shock came 2 days later when a confidential memo circulated among the king's private secretaries. Charles had already made the decision weeks before the dinner even happened. He had signed off on a document that quietly redefined the roles of non-blood members of the immediate family. The language was careful. It never named Tom or Laura. But everyone who read it understood exactly who it was aimed at. Charles had been planning this for months. The dinner was only the moment William forced it into the open. Then something unexpected happened. Camilla found out about the memo before William did. A loyal member of her staff had seen the draft and warned her. She went to Charles that same evening. People who were in the next room say her voice never rose, but the words were ice cold. She asked him if this was his way of punishing her for the past. Charles reportedly answered with one sentence. He said he was protecting the crown, not punishing anyone. Camilla left the room without another word. The next morning she cancelled 3 public engagements. The official reason was fatigue. Palace staff knew better. And this is where the story becomes even more dramatic. Because this isn't just about one rude comment at dinner. This is about 25 years of unfinished business. William has never forgotten the years when Camilla was the most hated woman in Britain. He was 15 when his mother died. He watched the newspapers tear Camilla apart every single day. He watched his father choose her anyway. He watched the Queen refuse to let Camilla be called Princess of Wales. Those memories never left him. When Charles became king and immediately made Camilla Queen Consort, William smiled for the cameras. Inside he felt the old wound open again. Tom's comment that night was the match that finally lit it. So why did the king really make this decision? The answer is more complicated than loyalty to his son. Charles has always been a man torn between 2 families. He loves Camilla. That much is obvious to anyone who has seen them together in private. But he also knows the monarchy cannot survive another decade of public resentment. Polls still show that a large part of the country has never accepted Camilla as queen. Charles is 76. He has already faced cancer. He understands time is short. He wants William's reign to begin without the old shadows hanging over it. Removing Tom from the inner circle was his way of drawing a line. It was also his way of saying to William, "I hear you. Even if I waited too long." But here's the part almost nobody knows. Charles didn't make this decision alone. 3 months earlier he held a secret meeting at Highgrove with 2 of the most senior royal lawyers and the keeper of the Privy Purse. No press. No staff beyond those 3 men. They discussed something that has never been made public. Charles wanted to know how far he could legally go in limiting the public roles of Camilla's children without creating a constitutional problem. The lawyers told him he had more power than he realized. As king, he could simply stop issuing certain invitations. He could change the wording of official documents. He could even adjust the civil list allocations that quietly support extended family members. Charles listened for 2 hours. Then he asked them to draft the memo that would later explode at that dinner. The emotional cost of that meeting was enormous. One of the lawyers later told a colleague that Charles looked 10 years older when they left. He kept repeating the same phrase. "I have to think of the boy." He meant William. Not Tom. Not even Harry. Just William. The heir who has carried the weight of his mother's death since he was a teenager. The man who now has 3 children of his own and refuses to let the same chaos touch them. William has never spoken publicly about any of this. He doesn't need to. People close to him say he still keeps a small photograph of Diana in his desk at Kensington Palace. It is not the famous smiling picture the world knows. It is a private snapshot taken days before she died. He looks at it when the pressure becomes too much. After the dinner at Windsor, he went straight back to Adelaide Cottage. Kate later told a friend that he sat in the garden for almost an hour without speaking. When he finally came inside, he said only one thing: "I will not let them rewrite her story." That was the moment Kate understood this was never really about Tom. It was about a son who still feels he failed to protect his mother. Camilla's position is heartbreaking in a different way. She has spent decades waiting to be accepted. She endured the hatred, the jokes, the endless comparisons to Diana. When she finally became queen, she believed the worst was over. Now her own son has been publicly dismissed from the family table. Friends say she has barely spoken to Charles since that night. She still appears at his side for official events. The smile is perfect. The eyes are not. One lady-in-waiting described her as a woman who has finally realized she will never fully belong. Then something unexpected happened again. 2 weeks after the dinner, a letter arrived at Buckingham Palace. It was handwritten. It came from Tom. He did not apologize for the comment about Diana. Instead, he wrote that he had never wanted a royal role in the first place. He said he was a food writer, not a courtier, and he was tired of being used as a symbol in other people's wars. He asked Charles to release him completely from any remaining official connections. Charles read the letter twice. Then he folded it and placed it in the same drawer where he keeps letters from Harry. He has not replied. The palace is now split into 2 silent camps. One side believes Charles has finally shown the strength people always said he lacked. The other side believes he has betrayed the woman who stood by him through the worst years of his life. William has not spoken to Camilla since that night. They still appear together when duty demands it. The photographs look normal. The space between them is not. Here's the part that will stay with you. Charles is a man who has spent his entire adult life trying to fix the damage he caused. He knows he broke his first marriage. He knows he hurt his sons. He knows the public still sees Camilla as the reason Diana died unhappy. And now, at the end of his life, he is trying to protect the one son who stayed. The cost is the woman he loves. That is the real tragedy sitting inside this story. William understands this better than anyone. That is why he has not celebrated the decision. He has not spoken about victory. People who have seen him since that night say he looks exhausted. He knows that every time he draws a line to protect his mother's memory, he also wounds his father. He knows that one day he will be king and he will have to live with the choices he is making now. He already feels the weight of that future. The children feel it too. George is old enough to notice when certain people suddenly stop appearing at family gatherings. Charlotte asks questions. Louis is still too young, but he watches everything. Kate has become the quiet center holding them together. She has never taken sides in public. In private she has told William one thing over and over. You cannot carry your mother's pain and your father's guilt at the same time. You will break. William listens. Then he goes back to work. The monarchy has always survived by pretending the personal never touches the official. This time the pretense is failing. Staff at Windsor say the atmosphere has changed. Conversations stop when certain people enter a room. Christmas plans are being rewritten. The traditional family photograph is already being discussed in hushed meetings. Who will stand where? Who will be missing? The answers are no longer simple. Charles has one more decision left to make, and it is the one that terrifies him most. He has to decide how this story will be told after he is gone. Will history remember him as the king who finally chose his heir over his wife? Or as the man who spent his last years trying to heal a wound that never closed? He has started writing letters again. The same way he used to write to Camilla in the old days. These new letters are different. They are addressed to William. No one has seen them yet. They sit in a locked box in his study. Palace rumors say there are 7 of them. One for each year he believes he has left. William does not know about the letters. If he did, it might change everything. Or it might change nothing. Because some distances cannot be crossed with paper. Some silences are too old. The last time father and son were alone together was 4 days after the dinner. They walked the gardens at Highgrove in the rain. Neither of them had an umbrella. Charles spoke first. He told William he was proud of him. William did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quiet. He said he was not trying to punish anyone. He was only trying to make sure his children never had to grow up in the same storm he did. Charles nodded. Then he said the sentence that has been repeated in every private conversation since. "I know, darling boy. I know." They walked the rest of the way without speaking. That is where the story sits tonight. A king who made a secret decision to protect the future. A prince who finally drew a line he had been holding for 25 years. A queen who is discovering that love does not always mean belonging. And a son who was never really part of the family in the first place, now walking away for good. The public will eventually hear a cleaned-up version. They will be told it was a simple matter of streamlining the household. They will be shown smiling photographs at the next state banquet. They will not be shown the empty chair at the family table. They will not hear the conversations that happen after the cameras leave. But the people inside those walls know the truth. Something fundamental has shifted. The old compromises are finished. The next chapter of this family will be written by a man who still keeps his mother's photograph in his desk and a father who is running out of time to make things right. What happens next is no longer in Charles's hands. It is in William's. And William has already shown everyone exactly how far he is willing to go. The only question left is how much more this family can lose before there is nothing left to protect.